Clara, let's get a divorce. It was the third year of my marriage to the multi-billionaire CEO, a marriage I had entered while hiding my own identity as a tycoon's daughter. And now, he was ending it. Julian's tone was calm, as if he were discussing something as mundane as the weather. But those 5 words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I swayed on my feet, my gaze inevitably shifting to the woman standing beside him. Is it because she's back? 3 years ago, Isabel had rejected Julian's marriage proposal to chase her dreams abroad. Julian Liu, ever the proud magnate, had responded by marrying a random woman the very next day. He chose me, Clara Yun, because my background was ordinary and unremarkable. I posed no threat. When the time came for a divorce, I would be easy to discard. And so, for 3 years, I had carefully played the role of his wife, a wife he had married out of spite. I was obedient to a fault, anticipating his every need, taking care of everything. I believed that one day, I could earn a place in his heart. I never imagined that Isabel's return would reduce my 3 years of effort to nothing. Julian's gaze was deep and unreadable. Yes, he had to admit, though Clara lacked status, she was an impeccable homemaker. She played the role of wife to perfection. But Julian had never wanted a dutiful housewife. He needed a partner who was his equal, a woman brilliant enough to stand by his side. Clara, obviously, was not that woman. He disliked her humble origins and despised the way she clung to him like a timid, helpless vine. He placed a signed divorce agreement on the table. Sign it. Name your price. I'll give you whatever you want. Seeing the cold indifference in his eyes, I felt a suffocating weight in my chest. 3 years of marriage, and he was this eager to get rid of me. When I didn't react, Julian pulled out a check and tossed it onto the table. Here's $10 million. Is that enough? A bitter, sour taste filled my mouth. After a long moment, I found my voice, hoarse and strained. Julian, in your eyes, what am I? An invisible placeholder, forced to tolerate you bringing your old flame home. A beggar who can be dismissed with a check for 10 million. Or a pathetic fool who poured out her heart and soul for you, only to receive nothing in return. I had tried for 3 whole years. Even a stone should have been warmed by now. How could he so easily trample on my dignity, treating all my love as if it were air? Julian looked at my desperate expression, his own perfectly serene. When we married, I told you the terms. You would be my wife, and I would give you the status of a tycoon's lady. Nothing more. It was like a bucket of ice water had been dumped over my head, freezing me to the bone. Beside him, Isabel watched me with satisfaction. She feigned a moment of weakness, her legs giving way as she fell into Julian's arms. Julian, I feel dizzy. I think I had too much to drink at the party. Instantly, she had his full attention. He had no time left for me. He threw one last cold statement over his shoulder. Sign the papers and move out as soon as possible. Then, he swept Isabel into his arms and carried her upstairs. The next second, I watched, frozen, as he carried her into our bedroom. I felt the blood drain from my body, rooted to the spot. I had been wrong from the very beginning. Julian was never the right person for me. I closed my eyes as tears slowly traced paths down my cheeks. My heart felt as though it were being pierced by 1,000 needles. The pain so intense I could barely breathe. It was time to see clearly. I reached for the divorce papers on the table and, with steady strokes, signed my name. My eyes fell on the check. I picked it up and tore it into tiny pieces. I didn't want a single cent of the Liu family's money. I had been a fool. From now on, I would never again be so foolish as to give my heart away. With that done, I gathered my few belongings and walked out of the Liu family villa, without a single look back. Outside, a torrential downpour had begun. I tossed the apron I was still wearing and all my luggage into a trash can, as if I were discarding the utterly foolish version of myself that had existed for the past 3 years. Then, standing in the rain, my eyes cold and hard, I made a phone call. Come and take me home. 20 minutes later, a fleet of over 100 limited edition luxury cars roared through the rainy night. The procession was so massive that the sound of their engines startled the staff at the Liu estate. The maids ran outside, only to see a cloud of dust settling in the distance. Were their eyes playing tricks on them? The person being picked up by that incredible convoy, it couldn't possibly have been the young madam, could it? The maids hurried back inside and found Julian coming downstairs. After putting Isabel to bed, one of the bolder maids couldn't help but ask, "Young master, it seemed like the madam was just picked up by a fleet of over 100 luxury cars." Julian's face was a mask of cold displeasure. He didn't even look up. The Liu family has no need for servants with poor eyesight. The maids flinched. They remembered the young madam's background. Rural, no connections, a middle school education, She was always called a sparrow who married a phoenix. Julian disliked her, and his mother, Eleanor, looked down on her. How could she possibly know people who drove such cars? They had seen those models before. A single one was worth a fortune, and they had just seen 100 of them at once. It must have been a mistake. To keep their jobs, the maids quickly apologized and never mentioned it again. Meanwhile, the fleet of cars sped on, finally stopping before a magnificent estate. Dozens of bodyguards in sharp black suits disembarked in perfect formation, first opening the door of the lead-stretched Lincoln, then standing respectfully in 2 lines. The head butler, Mr. Lee, ran out from the manor. Seeing it was really Clara, he was overcome with emotion. "Miss Clara, you're finally back." Clara smiled faintly, her voice carrying a newfound authority. "Mr. Lee, I'm back." A moment later, her mother also rushed out. "Clara, is that you?" Seeing the white strands in her mother's hair, Clara's eyes turned red. "Mom, I'm sorry, I'll never run away from home again." 3 years ago, she had fallen for Julian. Hearing he was looking for a wife with no background, she hid her identity and married him, hoping to find true love. Instead, her heart had been shattered. Now, she finally understood. She was born a phoenix among mortals. To think she had willingly caged herself for a man for 3 years, it was laughable. Clara's mother knew her daughter's capabilities better than anyone. A double doctorate from Harvard, she was a strategic and decisive business prodigy. 3 years ago, she had given it all up for love. Her mother gripped her hand tightly. "You're finally back. In these 3 years, Apex Group has nearly collapsed several times under your cousin's management." Clara thought of her reckless, spoiled cousin, Jasper. She wasn't surprised at all. Her eyes were firm and clear. "Don't worry, I won't let him misbehave any longer." Apex was the legacy her grandfather had left her. She would not allow anyone to touch it. The next day, news of Miss Clara Yun's return swept through the entire corporation. Years ago, after the old patriarch of Apex passed away, he entrusted the family business to Clara. She had taken charge with an iron fist, cleaning out a batch of troublesome executives. But then she had suddenly vanished. Now that she was back, everyone was curious. Jasper hadn't seen his cousin in 3 years and had grown comfortable in the president's chair. Even after the news of Clara's return spread, he refused to leave the office. What could a woman do to him? He had always resented their grandfather for leaving the company to her. When Clara left, he had used his status to force out the people she had left in charge, and seized the position of acting president. He wasn't about to give it up now. Soon, the office door was pushed open. 4 bodyguards in black entered, silently dismantling and removing his belongings. Then, they lifted his executive chair and began dragging it out. "Let go. Get your hands off me." Just then, a woman in a Chanel suit walked in. Clara took off her sunglasses and smiled faintly. "Cousin, this is my welcome back gift to you. Do you like it?" "Clara, what gives you the right to kick me out?" Jasper's face was dark with rage. Clara casually produced a document. "This does." Jasper looked at it and was instantly speechless. It was their grandfather's will, clearly stating that Apex was to be inherited by Clara. "But I've been running Apex for the past 3 years. You've been running it." Clara shot him a cold glance. "How much has Apex lost in 3 years? And how much have you embezzled? Shall I draw up a detailed list for you?" As expected, Jasper fell silent. He remembered then that before she disappeared, his cousin was a Harvard-educated genius, their grandfather's most prized successor. "You'd better get out of here while I can't be bothered to pursue this. Otherwise, if you have to pay back everything you've stolen, you'll likely end up bankrupt." Ultimately, Jasper could only leave Apex in disgrace. Clara officially took over the group, but the situation was dire. Just as her mother had said, the only reason Apex hadn't completely collapsed was because of its strong foundation. She worked for days on end, barely sleeping, just to sort through the mess left behind. 3 days later, her secretary, Anna, knocked on the door. "Ms. Yun, the former vice president had a dinner meeting scheduled for this afternoon about an investment project. Will you be attending?" Clara frowned. She had no interest in attending a meeting set up by Jasper, but she'd heard that many top CEOs would be there. What kind of investment was so alluring? After a moment's thought, she decided, "Arrange it for me." Meanwhile, at Zenith Corp, Julian's assistant walked into his office. "Mr. Liu, the legendary head of Apex Group has recently returned." "Oh." Julian looked up. He had heard the stories about the Apex heiress. Years ago, when the chairman died, he had handed the reins to a young woman. Apex was on shaky ground, but she had stabilized the company with ruthless efficiency. The woman was clearly a force to be reckoned with. Julian had been interested in her before and had even considered a partnership, but then she had inexplicably disappeared, and now she was back. Seeing his boss's interest, the assistant added, "There's a dinner tonight, and the new president of Apex will be there. Will you be going?" Julian raised an eyebrow and said nonchalantly, "I'll go take a look." That evening, Clara arrived a little late to the private dining room. As she pushed open the door, the room fell silent. Dozens of men in suits sized her up. Unfazed, Clara walked in and introduced herself. "Good evening, everyone. I am the new president of Apex Group, Clara Yoon." With that, she poured herself a glass of straight liquor. "My apologies for being late. Allow me to offer a toast. Please forgive me." She downed the high-proof liquor in one go. The men at the table, impressed by her boldness, broke into cheers. "President Yoon is a straight shooter. We've long heard of the prowess of the Yoon family's heiress. Truly impressive. President Yoon, please, have a seat. You're not leaving until you've had your fill tonight." Amid the praise, Clara took her seat, making small talk while silently listening to their discussion about the investment. The host of the dinner was a man named Vincent, who had just returned from Wall Street. He was the one leading the investment, and he constantly whispered in Clara's ear about how rare and profitable the project was. After a while, someone remarked, "Isn't Mr. Liu from Zenith here yet?" Clara's head snapped up. Julian was coming too. Just then, a server knocked on the door. "Excuse me, Mr. Liu from Zenith Corp has arrived." Julian stepped out of the elevator and followed the server to the exclusive private room. When he entered, he saw it was filled with men. He scanned the room. The female president wasn't there. For some reason, a flicker of disappointment went through him. He spoke coolly, "Apologies for my late arrival." At that moment, outside the room, Clara, having had a few drinks, was being escorted into an elevator by a man in a suit. "Leo," the man teased her, "I couldn't find you for 3 years, and now I run into you at a dinner party." Clara smiled faintly. "It seems we're quite fated." Leo was her childhood friend. A moment ago, Vincent had been blocking her from leaving. Thankfully, Leo was passing by, recognized her voice, and rescued her. They made their way to the underground parking lot, where Leo started his Maybach to drive her home. The cool night air felt good on her face. "I heard Julian Liu was there. Did you leave early to avoid him?" Leo asked. Hearing his name, Clara expected a pang of sadness, but her heart was surprisingly calm. She answered coolly, "No, I just think there's a problem with that investor." Leo's expression turned serious. "You mean Vincent, the guy from Wall Street?" Clara nodded. "I spoke with him for 20 minutes. He kept emphasizing high returns and high interest rates, but never once mentioned the risks. And his resume is too perfect, almost like it's fabricated. A master trader who was supposedly invincible on Wall Street. Why would he suddenly return to the country with a project that looks like a handout? Playing philanthropist in our city." Leo found it strange too. "He approached my grandfather a while back, but the old man is conservative and turned him down." "After hearing you put it that way, it does sound suspicious." Clara shook her head. The biggest taboo in investing was chasing only profits. So, whether Julian was there or not, she would have left tonight. The next day, Clara told her assistant, "We're not moving forward with Vincent's investment. Cancel the project." The assistant was puzzled. "But I heard several companies have already increased their investment. Are we really pulling out?" Clara nodded decisively. "Pull out." After she made the decision, the old guard on the board who resented her began to gossip, with Jasper stirring the pot from behind the scenes. The entire company was soon whispering that the new female president was just a pretty face who didn't know business, costing the company a major opportunity. Clara was aware of the rumors, but she paid them no mind and continued with her work. About 10 days later, the news broke. Vincent had vanished with over $1 billion in investment funds. An investigation revealed he was a known financial fraudster in North America, specializing in scamming large corporations. Among the major companies he had targeted, only 2 had escaped unscathed. One was Apex Group, the other was Julian Liu's Zenith Corp. Suddenly, those at Apex who had doubted Clara had nothing more to say. Meanwhile, at Zenith Corp, Julian's assistant reported the news. "Mr. Liu, you were right. That Vincent character was a fraud." That night, Julian had only stayed for half an hour before sensing something was off, and leaving promptly. He looked at his computer, thinking the fools who fell for it deserved it. The assistant added, "I heard the female president of Apex also left early that night. You and she were the only 2 who weren't scammed." Her again. It seemed that even after 3 years, the heiress's mind hadn't dulled. He found it curious how her cousin, the former acting president, could have been so foolish. Zenith and Apex were supposed to collaborate this year, but after Jasper's blunders, Julian had abandoned the idea. He hated doing business with fools. Now, perhaps, it was worth another try, he said casually. Contact Apex. See if they're still interested in the partnership we proposed. At the beginning of the year, yes, sir, but the reply from Apex came back quickly. It was crisp and unequivocal. No interest, not considering, no cooperation. This Apex heiress, did she have a particular aversion to working with Zenith? Julian, however, didn't dwell on it. He was a proud man, a chosen son of fortune. He had no time to decipher the whims of others. He dismissed the matter from his mind. Clara, you saved Apex hundreds of millions. It's a crime not to reward yourself. Leo, seeing Clara buried in work ever since she returned, had been tasked by her mother to drag her out for some shopping. Clara had little interest in shopping, but not wanting to disappoint her mother and friend, she went with Leo to the city's largest luxury mall. They walked into a high-end shoe store, and seeing the glittering high heels on display, Clara felt a flicker of interest. That's more like it, Leo said, indignant on her behalf. Look at you, still wearing shoes from 3 years ago. Did the Liu family go bankrupt? Did Julian never spend a dime on you? Clara's eyes softened as she drifted into thought. She used to be so focused on pleasing Julian that she never had the mind to dress herself up. Leo, thinking he had touched a sore spot, apologized with a wave as his phone rang and he stepped out to take the call. Clara found it amusing. She had just been lost in a memory. She continued browsing and stopped in front of a pair of dark green, vintage silk high heels. Could I see these, please? The sales associate brought out the shoes. Clara fell in love with them instantly and was about to try them on, when a familiar, sharp voice came from behind her. Clara Yoon. Eleanor, Lou and Isabel had just entered the store, and spotted Clara immediately. Wasn't she that poor, pathetic daughter-in-law? Clara barely reacted, giving them a glance before turning her attention back to the shoes. Eleanor was furious. This country bumpkin used to fawn over her every day. Now that she was divorced, she dared to ignore her. Her voice dripped with acid. Spending the alimony you got from Julian on luxury goods. Designer clothes can't hide the stench of poverty on you. Clara frowned. I didn't take a single cent from your family. You can ask Julian if you don't believe me. Eleanor laughed as if she'd heard a joke. A poor girl from the countryside like you wouldn't take our money. Please. Her attitude was vile. Clara had only tolerated it before for Julian's sake. Now, she had no reason to. Just as she was about to retort, Isabel spoke up softly. All right, Auntie, don't let this spoil your shopping trip. Eleanor huffed and turned to look at other shoes. A few minutes later, Isabel also set her sights on the same pair of heels. It was the last pair in the store. She walked over to Clara. Miss Yoon, are you planning to buy these shoes? I'd like to buy them too. And if you're not, well, I'd rather not buy something someone else has tried on. On the surface, it was a polite inquiry. In reality, she was implying Clara couldn't afford them, and shouldn't even bother trying them on. Clara found it laughable. This Isabel, so gentle on the outside, was an expert at firing veiled insults. Miss Isabel, you speak with such authority, one might almost mistake you for the owner of the store. Isabel immediately feigned being wronged. I was just worried you'd try them on and then not buy them. It would be a waste. Eleanor chimed in again. Exactly. Who would want to buy shoes that have been on feet like yours? Besides, didn't you say you didn't take my son's money? Can you even afford these? Just as Clara's anger was about to boil over, Leo's voice cut through the air. Wrap these shoes up. He walked to Clara's side and addressed the sales associate. And one more thing. Find out how many pairs of this shoe exist in the entire city. We'll buy all of them. Clara thought it was unnecessary and tugged on his sleeve. But Leo just said, it's fine. I'd rather not have you wear the same shoes as someone with such low character. It's bad luck. The insult was clearly aimed at Isabel, whose face flushed with anger, but Leo looked formidable, and even Eleanor could only fume in silence. Who was this man, so willing to spend so extravagantly on Clara? After the shoes were wrapped, Leo took Clara's hand and left, not giving the other two a second glance. Watching them leave, Isabel said with a knowing look, that man is so good to Miss Yoon. No wonder she didn't want Julian's money when they divorced. Eleanor spat venomously. So what if she's found a new sugar daddy? She's still just a plaything for men. Back at the Liu estate, Julian was holding a small, exquisite wood carving he'd found in the bedroom. It was a lifelike deer, so finely crafted it couldn't have been mass-produced. It had to be hand-carved. He then noticed a small C carved into the base. Clara carved this. A country woman with little education. How could she create something so beautiful? Julian's eyes narrowed in thought. He had never paid any attention to Clara's life, knowing only her name and nothing of her skills. Now, thinking back, he recalled she was often fiddling with pieces of wood. For some reason, he couldn't bring himself to throw the carving away. It was too beautiful. He opened a cabinet and placed the carving on the bottom shelf. As he looked up, he saw rows of clothes, perfectly organized. He paused. This was Clara's work, too. She was meticulous. Knowing he was busy with various events, she had arranged his clothes by occasion, work, social events, formal functions, galas. He could just grab what he needed and go. And her taste was excellent. The outfits were simple yet elegant, on par with a professional stylist. The more Julian thought, the stranger it became. Clara, was she really just an uncultured country girl? Just then, the door opened and Isabel walked in. Julian instinctively shut the cabinet door. What is it? Isabel, still smarting from her encounter with Clara, saw her chance to complain. She said pointedly, "Nothing much. It's just that Auntie is a little upset." "Why?" She bit her lip. "We ran into Clara at the mall today. She was with a man who looked very wealthy. They were very intimate. And she said some things that upset Auntie." A man. A strange feeling flickered in Julian's chest. Didn't she used to be in love with him? How could she have latched onto someone else so quickly? For some reason, he pictured Clara's obedient demeanor in front of him. Would she be like that with other men? He frowned and said coldly, "We're divorced. It has nothing to do with me." With that, he strode out of the bedroom and into his study. But Clara's name, her carving, the clothes she arranged, and the new man, they all lingered in his mind. Refusing to leave, he suddenly realized he had never truly known his ex-wife at all. After a long while, he picked up the phone and made a call. "I need you to investigate someone." After a short lunch break, Clara dove back into her work. Leo still came by every few days, either for lunch or to drag her out. Much to her annoyance, that afternoon, Leo slipped away from his own company and appeared at Apex. Clara deadpanned. "No lunch, no golf, no racing." Leo feigned heartbreak. "You're so cruel. And here I came with a surprise for you." That got her attention. "What surprise?" He smiled mysteriously and showed her his phone. It was a private forum on the dark web, filled with wealthy Chinese, American wives, all cursing Isabel. Some had even posted hotel security screenshots of Isabel with their husbands. "Your ex-husband's white moonlight. She presents herself as a sophisticated intellectual, but she's actually a notorious socialite. Her reputation in the States was so rotten she had to come back. They say that out of every 10 wealthy wives, at least 3 of their husbands were seduced by her." Clara scrolled through the forum, closing it quickly when the pictures became too graphic. She was surprised. The woman Julian had been pining for was this sordid. She didn't know who had worse judgment, Julian, or herself for having once fallen for him. Leo, with a hint of mischief, asked, "Do you want to tell your unfortunate ex-husband and watch his face when he learns the truth?" Clara tossed the phone back to him, completely uninterested. "What's the point? Why tell him? A scoundrel and a scumbag deserved each other." Meanwhile, in Julian's study, the investigator he'd hired reported back. "The information we have is the same as it was 3 years ago, after she left the Liu family. All traces of her vanished." Julian's dark eyes narrowed. He hung up the phone. For the first time, he felt this ex-wife he had once disdained was shrouded in mystery. Where did she go? Where could she have gone? After a moment, driven by an impulse he didn't understand, he found her number in his contacts and dialed it. A cold, robotic female voice answered immediately. He had been blocked. Julian was stunned for a second, then let out a cold laugh and threw his phone onto the desk. A few hours later, Isabel entered the study. Julian was engrossed in his work. She said softly, "Julian, you work so late every day. You should find someone to help you, or your health will suffer." "It's fine," he replied distractedly. "You go to bed." "But I want to help you," she insisted. Julian was dealing with a particularly urgent contract, and his tone was unintentionally sharp. "I don't need it." He didn't look up, so he missed the ambition and greed in her eyes. She wasn't a true heiress. While her parents were intellectuals, her family was of modest means. Years abroad had addicted her to power and money. If she hadn't been run out of the US, she never would have returned. Knowing Julian hadn't forgotten her, she wasn't about to let him go. But more than Julian, she wanted the Liu family's vast fortune. Julian was good to her, but he was cautious with his company. She could never find an opening to get involved with Zenith Corp, and she was afraid of being too obvious. Sensing his harsh tone, Julian paused. "Isabel, your birthday is coming up. I'm planning a party for you. You should rest. Don't worry about other things. Isabel could only force a smile. Thank you, Julian. As she left, the unconcealed ambition in her eyes was stark. She began plotting. Yesterday, at a private club, she had run into Jasper, the recently ousted head of Apex Group. Apex, the wealthiest company in the city. If she could control that, what power and money would she lack? In her eyes, the new female president of Apex was just a pampered princess, and Jasper was an idiot. This family was far easier to manipulate than Julian. A venomous glint appeared in Isabel's eyes. She had a plan. Back in her room, she dialed Jasper's number. Mr. Yoon, shall we make a deal? A few days later, Clara mentioned Jasper's strange behavior to Leo over dinner. He always hated that grandfather left the company to me. Now he's suddenly inviting me to dinner to apologize. Leo, remembering Jasper's reputation, said seriously, Clara, your cousin is bad news. You need to be careful. Clara knew that. It was why her grandfather hadn't left him any shares. Thinking about the dinner tomorrow, she felt something was wrong. Leo, can you do me a favor? Find out what Jasper has been up to these past few days. Worried for her safety, Leo immediately had someone investigate. The results were chilling. Seeing the surveillance footage of Jasper's purchases, Leo's face turned livid. I'm going to go grab him right now. Clara stopped him, her own eyes turning cold. Not yet. You're going to let him go. He's planning to. Clara shook her head. I'm no saint, but we don't have enough evidence. I need to go to the dinner tomorrow to catch him in the act. She let out a cold laugh. My dear cousin has had it too easy. It's time he went somewhere he can reflect on his actions. The next day, Clara went alone to the club. She walked into the private room, which was empty and filled with a cloying fragrance. Jasper hadn't arrived yet. In reality, he and Isabel were in the room next door, listening. Suddenly, a sharp scream echoed from the room. Jasper's face lit up with excitement. Did it work? Isabel, not wanting to get her hands dirty, said, You go check. Jasper rushed out and excitedly called his men outside to let the reporters in, but his assistant stammered back. Mr. Yoon, we've been discovered. Jasper frowned and pushed open the door to Clara's room. Useless fools. Who discovered you? His words died in his throat. Clara was not drugged at all. She was sitting on the sofa, watching him coldly. The 3 thugs he'd hired were kneeling on the floor, held down by her bodyguards. He began to tremble, unable to speak clearly. You didn't fall for it. An idiot like you trying to plot against someone. Clara scoffed. Jasper, I thought I was lenient with you, but you tried to drug me, have me assaulted by these men, and then expose it to the press. What? Did you think I would be so shamed I'd kill myself and leave Apex to you? Dream on. His plan exposed. A vicious look crossed Jasper's face. Yes, I wanted to harm you. Apex should have been mine. Clara saw he was beyond saving. Stubborn fool. Then you can go repent in prison. Just then, several uniformed police officers rushed in and cuffed him. Jasper finally realized this wasn't something money could solve. This was a crime. He shouted desperately. It wasn't my idea. It was Isabel. She's next door. Go get her. Hearing her name, Clara frowned. The police burst into the next room. But Isabel, seeing things had gone wrong, was long gone. Clara rushed to the window and saw a familiar luxury car pulling away. From the curb below, she recognized it. It was one of Julian's cars. Jasper was still screaming his innocence, but Isabel was too smart. She had only ever discussed the plan with him in person, leaving no evidence. The drugs, the thugs, it was all Jasper. She had never even shown her face. Clara's eyes were like ice. Without a second glance at her cousin, she walked out. That night at the Yoon estate, Leo had the full story. Before Jasper bought the drugs, he met with Isabel twice. Clara sneered. I had no time to settle scores with her, and yet she delivered herself to my doorstep. Originally, she truly hadn't planned to bother with the woman. All Isabel had done was steal a man who didn't love her. But now, she had aimed such a vicious plot at Clara, with her sights set on Apex. If something happened to Clara, Jasper would be the primary heir. A little coaxing, and the vast fortune would be Isabel's. A brilliant calculation. Clara closed her eyes and let out a soft, mocking laugh. Leo watched her. Clara, what do you want to do? A smile played on her lips. I hear Julian is throwing her a birthday party. A celebration that grand. How could I not send my regards? The next day, Julian received a call at his office from the Apex Group president's office. The secretary's sweet voice, following Clara's instructions to the letter, said, Mr. Liu, our president would like to know if the partnership you mentioned is still on the table. Julian paused. This Apex president was a strange one. Last time, she acted like she would never work with him. Now, she was calling him. He toyed with an expensive pen. Intrigued, what made her change her mind? Our president says it is better to have one more friend than one more enemy. She was wrong last time. If you would agree, we would be most grateful. Julian narrowed his eyes. How do I know you're being sincere this time? We hear you are hosting a birthday party for your girlfriend soon. As a token of our sincerity, our president will attend with a significant gift. Hearing this, it seemed the heiress was genuinely sincere. Julian was not one to be petty. If Apex could bring him profit, and they were making the first move, he wouldn't refuse. Very well, I await her presence. The night of the birthday party was a spectacular affair. Julian had spared no expense for Isabel, booking the city's most luxurious hotel. The parking lot was filled with supercars. Socialites flocked around Isabel, treating her like a princess. Even her parents, normally busy with academic research, were there, listening to guests praise their daughter as a well-bred lady from a scholarly family. Isabel's vanity was immensely satisfied. Look, even without a massive inheritance, she was still the center of attention, with a respectable family and a party every girl dreamed of, and the love of Julian Liu. Julian accompanied Isabel, greeting guests. Though he disliked such noisy events, he was only enduring it for her. Eleanor, in a lavish gown, chatted with guests, every other sentence a compliment for Isabel. Yes, Julian and Isabel will be engaged soon. A girl like Isabel is the only one worthy of him. His ex-wife. Don't mention that country bumpkin. She has nothing. How can she compare to Isabel? She's not fit to touch Isabel's feet. Julian passed by and overheard his mother's blatant insults. He frowned, finding her behavior inappropriate for the occasion. Isabel heard it too, and preened, but she failed to notice three more lavishly dressed women enter the hall. The women walked quietly up to Isabel and suddenly began beating her. Even Julian was caught off guard as they pushed him aside. You bitch. You thought you could hide from us by running back to your own country. You homewrecker. You have the nerve to celebrate your birthday. The entire hall fell silent. Isabel's hair was a mess, her dress torn. Julian, recovering from his shock, his face dark, tried to stop them. Who let you in here to cause trouble? The women were unafraid. She's the bitch who seduced my husband. I have every right to hit her. Isabel cowered behind Julian, denying everything. No, Julian, they're lying. I've never even seen them before. Just then, the large screen at the front of the hall went black. A moment later, a slideshow began, photo after photo of Isabel in foreign hotels with various wealthy men. The pictures played on a loop. The crowd gasped. Isabel's intellectual parents nearly fainted from the shock. Julian's face was as black as thunder, his eyes like ice as he stared at Isabel. She was ashen-faced, still trying to argue. It's not me. Those photos must be photoshopped. Julian, you have to believe me. One of the wives scoffed. Photoshopped. I have videos right here. Should we play them for everyone to see if they're photoshopped? Isabel began to tremble, her lips quivering, unable to speak. The hall was plunged into a dead silence. At that exact moment, the doorman's voice boomed, sharp and piercing, announcing the president of Apex Group, Miss Clara Yun. The double door swung open. A woman in a stunning, custom-made silver gown walked in, her eyes sharp and beautiful, a faint smile on her ruby red lips. Seeing Clara in all her glory, Isabel panicked. She latched onto her like a drowning woman grasping at a straw. Clara, it was you. You did this to me. Julian was stunned to see Clara. His earlier suspicions were correct. She was no uneducated country girl, but he had never imagined she was the heiress of Apex Group. For 3 years, she had been deceiving him, and not just her. Isabel, the woman he thought was so pure and innocent, had been deceiving him too. He, Julian Liu, the man who prided himself on his judgment, had been played for a fool by 2 women. His face turned a ghastly shade. Clara walked elegantly towards Isabel. Don't try to pin your mess on me. What did I do to you? Weren't you the one seducing other women's husbands? Her calm tone and powerful aura left Isabel speechless, but she quickly recovered. Her only chance was to deny everything and insist Clara had framed her. She knew Julian hated being deceived above all else. It was you. You were jealous I took Julian from you, so you framed me. Humph. Clara laughed coldly. A man. He's not worth that much effort. Hearing this, a flicker of an unreadable emotion crossed Julian's face. What do you mean? Isabel stammered, her panic growing. Clara's gaze was like a hawk's on its prey. What do you think? It was clear Clara knew about her plot with Jasper. That was no small matter. It meant prison time. Isabel pinned her last hopes on Julian, grabbing his arm and pleading, "Julian, Clara is framing me. You have to believe me. I love you so much. How could I ever do those things?" Julian was no fool. He could piece together the story. Jasper's recent arrest must have been Clara's doing, and Isabel was undoubtedly involved. He pulled his hand from Isabel's grasp, looking at her with disgust. Isabel collapsed to the floor, a chilling cold seeping through her. She was finished. Her reputation was destroyed, and Julian was done with her. The grand birthday party ended in disgrace. Isabel's scandal topped the trending charts, but the story was quickly suppressed. Clara knew it was Julian's doing, but she didn't stop him. Her goal had been achieved. She had gotten her revenge on Isabel and delivered a stinging blow to Julian. He, so proud, had to be suffering now that his beloved girlfriend's true nature was exposed to the world. She found it all rather amusing. They had brought it upon themselves. A scoundrel and a snake, a match made in heaven. Julian probably never loved Isabel that much anyway. It was more of an obsession. Otherwise, why would he have rushed to marry someone else the moment she left? Now, even that obsession was likely gone. All that was left for him was regret. Regret for not seeing Isabel's true colors sooner. With his resources, investigating her would have been easy, but he hadn't. He was too confident in her, and too confident in himself. Jasper was in prison now, his sentence likely to be long after Clara provided the police with ample evidence of his embezzlement. Clara's aunt and her family tried to cause trouble, but after Clara moved into one of her own private villas, they eventually gave up. Life at Apex Group returned to normal, slowly regaining its former glory under Clara's leadership. The shareholders who had once doubted her now sang her praises. One day, Julian himself appeared at her company. He was waiting in the conference room when Clara entered, dressed in a sharp black suit dress and high heels, her hair in a sleek ponytail. She was the epitome of a powerful executive. Seeing her like this, Julian felt a strange mix of familiarity and foreignness. He had never truly looked at her before. He never knew she was this beautiful, this commanding. "Mr. Liu, what brings you here today?" Clara asked with a polite, professional smile. Her polite, distant demeanor made Julian feel a pang of unease, as if something that once belonged to him was slipping further and further away. "President Yun is quite the forgetful one. The partnership you mentioned, you seem to have dropped it after my party was so rudely interrupted." The partnership was just a pretext, a way for her to get into the party. She never thought he'd take it seriously. In truth, it was a pretext for him too. He didn't know why, but he just wanted to see her. He hadn't been sleeping well. Her image haunted him. They had been husband and wife for 3 years. Though he had married her with impure motives, he realized now that some feelings had developed. Her sudden departure had left a void. Clara coughed lightly. "Regarding the partnership, Apex doesn't have a suitable project at the moment, but we are open to the idea. I will contact you when an opportunity arises." Hearing her deflect, Julian wasn't angry. He was amused. He had his assistant present a file. "I brought a project for you. I wonder if you're interested." It was a land development project in the west side of the city, a prime piece of real estate. "Why bring this to me?" Clara asked, suspicious. Zenith Corp was more than capable of handling it alone. Julian smiled, his gaze intense. "Given our relationship, isn't it normal to cooperate on good projects?" "We don't have a relationship," she said, a hint of panic in her voice. He was looking at her strangely, making her uneasy. She just wanted him gone. Realizing her discomfort, he changed tack. "As you know, many people have their eyes on this land. If Apex and Zenith worked together, no one would dare to challenge us." She considered it. He was right. In business, it was better to have a strong partner, and in the city, there was no better partner than Apex. It was a golden opportunity. Business is business. She couldn't let her personal feelings get in the way of profit for Apex. Ultimately, she agreed. That night, at the city's largest club, Clara met up with Leo and other old friends. She was in a black slip dress, a stark contrast to her daytime persona, as she downed 3 shots as a penalty for being late. Julian watched from another booth, his jaw tight. When he saw Leo's hand rest on Clara's shoulder, he slammed his glass down on the table. He followed her when she went to the restroom. She had been feeling nauseous. Strange, she thought. My tolerance has always been high. When she came out, Julian was leaning against the wall, waiting. "Quite a coincidence, Mr. Liu." "It's not a coincidence. I was waiting for you," he said, his voice low. He cornered her against the wall. "What am I supposed to do? I haven't even asked you why you lied to me." His warm breath on her face made her heart race. She didn't want to be entangled with him anymore. She was done. "Mr. Liu, What's the point of this now? She said with a cold laugh. You never loved me, and I don't love you anymore. Let's just finalize the divorce. It's better for both of us, isn't it? I don't love you anymore. The words hit him like a physical blow. He froze, taking advantage of his shock. Clara stomped on his foot with her high heel and fled. Clara couldn't shake the feeling of nausea. She decided to get a check. Up. She sat opposite the doctor, holding the report. When the doctor told her she wasn't sick, but pregnant, she felt like she'd been struck by lightning. Pregnant, but Julian had always been so careful. Then she remembered. 3 months ago, before the divorce, he had come home drunk. That one time, there had been no protection. The next morning, she had been so busy with her mother-in-law's demands that she forgot to take the pill. One accident. And now, a new life. If this had been before, she would have been overjoyed. But now, the timing was terrible. The doctor told her she was already over 3 months along, because of the long-term use of birth control pills. If she terminated this pregnancy, she might never be able to conceive again. Clara was torn. She desperately wanted to be a mother, but this child was Julian's. Could a child be happy when their parents weren't in love? She decided to have the baby, but she only wanted the child, not the father. She would finalize the divorce, go abroad, and raise the child alone. She knew she had to act fast. Julian wouldn't agree to a divorce now. She needed a plan. She met with Leo. I'm pregnant. Leo was stunned. She calmly explained her plan. He would pretend to be her new boyfriend to force Julian to finalize the divorce. As her best friend, he agreed. The next day, Clara walked out of Apex holding Leo's arm. Julian, waiting for her, saw them and his face contorted with rage. What is the meaning of this? He roared. Clara was calm. I'm with my boyfriend. Is there a problem? She said coldly. I'll have my lawyer send you the final papers. I don't want anything. Just sign them. If you don't, I'll see you in court. It worked. A man as proud as Julian wouldn't fight for a woman who was already with someone else. Fine. He seethed. I'll grant you your wish. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. at the city hall. The next day, they received their divorce certificates. The moment the paper was in her hand, a smile bloomed on Clara's face. That happy. Julian's voice was low and magnetic. Of course, she said, and walked away. Watching her go, a sour feeling washed over him. Why did it hurt so much? His friend, after hearing the story, asked a simple question. How can you be so sure the baby isn't yours? Even the best protection can fail. The words hit Julian like a bolt of lightning. He rushed to the hospital where Clara had her check. Up. He confirmed it. She was over 3 months pregnant. The timing lined up. Before she left him, she would never have been with another man. The child was his. The despair he felt was replaced by overwhelming joy. But then, a new dread set in. She was so determined to divorce him. She was even willing to hide his own child from him. He thought of Leo, and the thought of his child calling another man dad was unbearable. He had to win her back. He waited outside her villa all night. When she saw him, his face weary, his chin stubbled, she knew he must have found out. Clara, can we talk? In a nearby cafe, he finally confessed. Clara, I've been thinking a lot. I was wrong. I hurt you terribly. I know I can't undo my mistakes, but I am truly, sincerely sorry. His eyes were red-rimmed. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I just want a chance to make it up to you. I don't even dare to hope we can be together again. I just want to be near you, to see you sometimes. He looked at her, his voice breaking. Don't go to France. Please, don't take away my right to be a father. Give me a chance to take care of you both. I'll be a good dad. I promise. He spoke of his own fatherless childhood, a vulnerability she had never seen. His words struck a chord deep within her. She, too, knew the pain of growing up without a father. Did she want that for her child? No, she didn't. I won't go, she finally said. A brilliant smile lit up Julian's face, but her next words doused it with cold water. But that doesn't mean anything will change between us. You have the right to be a father, but we are only connected by this child. I will have full custody. You can see the child, but all decisions will be mine. He agreed to everything. It was enough that she was staying. Months passed. Julian was a constant, gentle presence. He sent her food, drove her to appointments, and attended every event she did, always hovering nearby. He never pushed, never asked for more. The day came for the baby to be born. The labor was difficult. As Clara's screams echoed from the delivery room, the doctor came out with a grim face. The mother is weak and has lost consciousness. The situation is not good. You have to decide. Save the mother or the child. Save her, Julian shouted, his voice cracking. Before her mother could even speak, save the mother, he paced frantically outside, his heart hammering against his ribs. An hour later, the door opened. A nurse emerged, holding a small bundle. Congratulations. It's a healthy baby boy. But Julian didn't even look at the baby. His eyes were fixed on Clara as she was wheeled out. He rushed to her side, gripping her hand, tears streaming down his face, dropping onto her skin. Seeing the raw emotion on his face, a warmth spread through Clara's chest. She weakly raised a hand to wipe his tears. Don't worry, I'm okay. He nodded, but his hand, holding hers, still trembled. It was in that moment she learned from her mother that her heart truly began to thaw. It wasn't just about him being there, it was about his choice. In the moment of life and death, he had chosen her. During her recovery, Julian was a shadow, tending to her every need. He was no longer the arrogant CEO, but a gentle, attentive man. He never mentioned the past or getting back together, seemingly content just to be by her side. One day, as he was tucking her into bed, she watched him bustling around the room. A soft smile played on her lips. He noticed her gaze and asked nervously, "What is it? Are you uncomfortable?" Clara took a breath and asked a question that had been lingering in her heart. "Julian, do you still like me?" He thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No," he said, his eyes meeting hers, full of a depth and sincerity she had never seen before. "It's not like." He leaned closer, his voice a soft, sure whisper. "It's love. I love you." Hearing those words, a radiant smile bloomed on Clara's face, as bright and warm as the winter sun, shining directly into Julian's heart. Perhaps, she thought, she could try again with him, not just for the child, but for herself, for the love that had finally, after a long and painful journey, found its way home.